Welcome to COS Indiana Live. There's never been a more important time in our history than now if you believe it's time to stand up and be free. Stay tuned and come back every Monday at 7 p.m. as our state director and host, Dale Parrish, present the need for self-governance. Our COS Indiana vision statement is to build a grassroots community of Hoosier citizens and legislators dedicated to the constitutional concept of self-governance. So, take it away, Dale.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Maringo Mike, for that introduction. I want to welcome all of you to our broadcast this evening. As Maringo Mike said, my name is Dale Parrish. I am the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana. So again, welcome to the broadcast this evening. I always say this every broadcast, but we have a great broadcast lined up for you this evening. So I know you're going to enjoy it. First of all, I do want to make another announcement, and that is that the broadcast is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. I'll be talking a little bit about our YouTube channel later on in the broadcast, but just so you know, there is an alternative way to view our broadcast, and that's on our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. Let me briefly go through the segments of our broadcast for this evening. The first segment will be what I call the discussion topic segment. Now, sometimes we, in fact, have a panel discussion on a particular topic, but most of the time I like to bring on one of our leadership individuals, either from here in Indiana or from our national group. And tonight we have one of our national leaders on for this evening. His name's Jonathan Viard. We're going to be bringing him on. He is our past states region director, new to the job. So we're going to welcome Jonathan to his new position and let you get to know him a little bit better, understand a bit about what his duties are and challenges. So we'll be bringing Jonathan on very, very shortly. The second segment will be what I call the information segment. Now I'll bring up my PowerPoint and share some resources that we have available to us here in Indiana, some general information, go over a few numbers just to let you know how we're doing here in Indiana. So that'll be in our second segment, the information segment. The third segment will be what I call viewer recognition. Now, any viewer, if you're a viewer this evening and you want to make a comment or ask a question, please do so in the chat section, and I'll do my best to bring those up on the screen. Make them very brief if you would, because I'm limited as to the number of characters that I can show on here, but we'll do our best to recognize our viewers that are wanting to make comments or ask questions this evening. Then in the final segment, I call this the invitation. We'll wrap things up tonight. I'll let you know what we have in store for our broadcast next Monday evening, the 23rd, and then invite you to join Convention of States here in Indiana. That's why I call it the invitation segment. So that will be the wrap up of tonight's broadcast. We'll try to keep the whole broadcast to no more than 30 minutes. Sometimes we go a little longer, but that's okay. So that will be what we plan on doing in our broadcast this evening. So without further ado, I want to unmute Jonathan and bring him up into our screen so you can see him. Here he comes. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, Dale. How are you?
Good, good. I'm put Jonathan in this kind of a view and welcome you to our broadcast this evening. So, Jonathan, you are new to your position, and you are, let me put your name up here so everybody knows your name. Jonathan Viard. Am I pronouncing that correct, Jonathan? Viard?
Viard.
Viard. Viard. Okay. I'll have to work on that a bit.
It's
Okay.
French.
All right. All right. But welcome to the broadcast this evening, Jonathan. Now, Jonathan, your title officially is the Past States Region Director. Now, I think everyone kind of has an idea what a region director means. You want to explain to viewers what you mean, or what is meant by past states.
Sure. And thanks again, Dale, for welcoming me. It's an honor to be here tonight. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and to the audience in Indiana. So, as the past states regional director, what do we mean by past states? Well, in order for us to get to a convention of states, which is what we're ultimately trying to do, we need to have 34 states pass our resolution. Our resolution is calling for a convention, three subject matters. Your audience may know them. In case they don't, I'll give them a bit of a refresher. It's to reduce the size and scope of the federal government, limit the terms of office for all federal officials, including members of Congress and judges, and place fiscal restraints on the federal government. So we're trying to have a convention to address those three subject areas. And in order for us to do that, we need to have 34 states pass the resolution. So far, we've passed it in 15 states. And as the regional director of the past states region, I get to work with the state teams in those 15 states.
Okay. All right. So these are states that have passed the resolution, and of course, Indiana is one of those states. We were the sixth state, as a matter of fact, to pass the resolution in 2016. Now, of course, these states we won't go through all of them, but there's 15, and they're kind of spread all over the country, right? You don't have a nice region per se in northeast of the United States or south. It's kind of spread all over right now, but so I'm sure that's kind of a challenge to you too, to stay in contact with all those states. So, okay, as I mentioned to you when I asked you to come on, one of the things I always request of leadership individuals that I bring on, and that is to tell us your COS story, your how, when, where you got involved with Convention of States. Now, I've heard your story before, and it's a good story. So I want you to be able to tell everyone your COS story. So, Jonathan, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Dale. So, my COS story really kind of began before Convention of States was even created. I went out on a date with a young lady who gave me a book, and that book was written by some guy I'd never actually heard of before. His name was Mark Levin, and the book was Liberty and Tyranny. And I'd love for to say that I opened that book and I said, "Yeah, this is it. This is what really is going to get me to where it gave me the inspiration to become a member of Convention of States." But I opened the book and I gave it back to her, and I never actually read it because the material was just a little too dry for me. About a year later or so, I got another book after starting to listen to Mark Levin. I got another book as a gift written by Mr. Levin called The Liberty Amendment. That book I did read, and that book talked about Article 5 and what could be done under Article 5 of our Constitution, calling a convention to propose amendments to the Constitution. And as somebody who was a history major in college, it fascinated me that this was a part of our Constitution, and I didn't know about it. I had never actually learned or studied about Article 5. I didn't really study the Constitution much either. So it was just fascinating to me that this was a tool that we could use to really kind of return the power to where it belongs, and that's we the people, and return our country to a culture of self-governance, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. So from there, I started to kind of research it and try to figure out how can I get involved with some sort of movement pushing Article 5. It just so happened that there was an organization that was founded around the same time Mark Levin's book was released, and that was called Convention of States. And they were having a debate. One of their co-founders was coming to New Jersey to debate the not sure what his position was with Eagle Forum. I know the son of the founder of Eagle Forum, Andy Schlafly, and the person debating him was Michael Farris from Convention of States. So I went to that debate and was blown away. The debate was outstanding, and Michael Farris did an unbelievable job explaining why we needed to utilize Article 5 of the Constitution and how we could use Article 5 to do exactly what I said, return power to we the people and really kind of reduce the size and scope of Washington, D.C. So I was inspired. I wanted to do what I could to help out, especially in New Jersey, which was going to always be an uphill battle. So I signed up to become a district captain. Started as a district captain in May of 2014, and was a district captain for a number of years. But around 2017, I said, you know something, I'd kind of like to get a little bit more involved. So I signed up to be the state communications coordinator. Oh, along the way, that girl that gave me that book on Mark Levin, I did the smart thing. I married her, so she's now my wife. So after signing up to become the state communications coordinator, I had an opportunity to really kind of help with the communications in New Jersey, which is really important when you're working with an organization that has a lot of volunteers. You want to make sure that your messaging is professional and accurate. Everybody's communicating with each other. And it was always a passion of mine to work in communications and kind of help with some content production and everything like that. In 2018, towards the beginning of the year, our new regional director at the time, Monica Stellers, approached me and asked me if I would be interested in being the state director for New Jersey. I said no. Monica was undeterred though, and she kind of twisted my
Good
arm.
answer. Good answer. I might mention. Good answer.
She twisted my arm a little bit, and I ultimately said, "Okay, sure, I'll be the state director of New Jersey." And the reason that I had said no was just because I felt like I didn't have the time to dedicate to the role. I felt like I was a young guy, just gotten married, just bought a house. I wasn't going to have the time to be a state director or dedicate the time necessary for such an important role. I soon found out that I did have the time, and it was ended up being the best decision that I've ever made, really, at least in terms of volunteer work, because it was an absolute honor to be able to serve the COS New Jersey team. At the time, we weren't really focused on grassroots development. We were trying to kind of meet with legislators and focus on getting the resolution passed by meeting with the legislators, but we were not embracing the fact that in order to get this done, especially in a state like New Jersey, we needed to grow the grassroots. We needed to have a firm foundation of grassroots support before we would be able to get the legislators to move on our resolution. So that's what we began to focus on. I was lucky enough to have a grassroots coordinator come on and work alongside me at the beginning, and for 2.5 years I held that position, and that's what we did. We focused on building the grassroots, and the biggest accomplishment for me, honestly, we didn't pass the resolution in New Jersey. They're not one of the 15 states, but that's okay because what I was able to be a part of, what I was able to help foster in New Jersey was a family atmosphere amongst the volunteers in our state. There were some incredible patriots in New Jersey. It's hard to believe, right? You think New Jersey is a blue state, and even though we're not a partisan organization, it's harder to get the resolution passed in some blue states. So you'd think that, you know what, maybe you're not going to be able to find the supporters that you need. Well, that's not true. I did find those supporters, and there were some amazing patriots in New Jersey. We built a family together and got an unbelievable amount accomplished. And I think that they are on an incredible trajectory. In fact, if anybody wants to keep an eye out or look at a dark horse candidate for somebody that's going to pass the resolution sooner rather than later, it would be the COS New Jersey team. So it was an absolute honor to be able to serve them as state director. And in September of this year, I was called up to the national team and became the past state's regional director.
All right, great story, great story. Well, I know you've been in your job here as regional director for a short period of time, but what are you sensing, Jonathan, as the challenges that we face as past states? What are some of the challenges you're seeing?
Well, it's a very unique situation for me, Dale, because I'm coming from a perspective where we were focused on passing the resolution, right? And even though we were building the grassroots, which is just as important in past states versus non-past states, it's still different because it's just a different mentality when you're working with teams that have already passed the resolution. But what I think is one of the biggest challenges that some of the past states have been dealing with is growth in terms of the grassroots. A lot of people look at it not entirely different from how we dealt with things in New Jersey, but people look at it just kind of the same coin, just a different side. So people look at past states and say, "Hey, it's passed. The resolution's passed. My job here is done. I don't have to worry about it." No, that's not true. And it's kind of like how people looked at New Jersey. New Jersey's a lost cause. It's never going to happen. I'm not going to get involved. We need people involved. And the reason for that is getting back to what I mentioned before, establishing a culture of self governance in our country. That's something we haven't had in decades, maybe even longer than that in our country. We need to get people to understand that in order for us to function as a society under our republic, to really take hold of our liberty, we need people to have an understanding of what a culture of self governance means. And that means having people play a part in the legislative process. So, in order for us to do that in past states, what we need to do is we need to continue to grow the grassroots. Because past states, even though the resolution has been passed, that doesn't mean that the job is done. There's still going to be a lot more done, lot more in front of a past states team when it comes time to actually having the convention. There are always rescission efforts out there. Believe it or not, there are a lot of people that are against what we're trying to do, and we need to be able to fight back against any rescission efforts. A lot of the states that have passed, you mentioned Indiana passed, I believe, in 2016. State legislatures look a lot different than they did when we passed that resolution. So it's
Right.
important for us to continue to develop relationships with our legislators and have a strong group of grassroots support that can respond if an effort like that comes up. There are also some non-COS legislative activity that we can get involved with, but we can't do that without support from our grassroots. And that's really the primary thing that I'm focused on with the past states is continuing to grow the teams and really develop a strong foundation and a strong army in each one of these past states.
Yeah, as a past state. As soon as the resolution was passed in Indiana, it happened to us just like other past states where the motivational level dropped off tremendously. People thought the job was done. So it is a continuing effort to build the grassroots and get people involved. And I think that's a key word. That's all about self-governance, and that's what we're trying to stress here in Indiana, and that is to get involved. And I know that is a key issue for you as well. Right, right.
Absolutely. And what I love about Convention of States in particular is there really is a role for everyone. So whether you're in a district that has a district captain or a region that has a regional captain, there's still roles for you. You say, well, maybe I'm not really somebody that goes and gives presentations. I don't really like public speaking. Well, can you make some phone calls? Yeah, I can do that. Well, there's a place for you. I'm not too comfortable making phone calls. Well, maybe you like to kind of write stories and or give some opinions and you're very talented at writing. There's a place for you. There's really a place for everyone if they have the time and they have the interest and they have the heart to get involved with an organization that's focused on preserving our liberties, not just for now, but for future generations to come. So if you really want to get involved with something and really kind of put your effort into a movement where you can really make a difference, Convention of States is the place for you. You definitely want to go on over to our website, conventionofstates.com. Go to my favorite page. I joke about this all the time because I mention it all the time. That's the Take Action page. Go over there, take a look at the roles that are there, sign up, become a volunteer, get connected with your local representatives for Convention of States in Indiana. Talk to Dale. I'm sure he's got plenty of things for you to do, and you could really make a difference not just for Indiana but for our country.
Very good, very good. Well, we've gone a little over time, but that's all right. So, Jonathan, I want to thank you very much for giving us your time this evening and sharing your story and your thoughts with us this evening. So, thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Dale. God bless.
All right, let's put Jonathan back in the lobby there, and we'll go ahead with our next segment, and that is the information segment. So I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint here, and I need to, in order for you to get a good view of the PowerPoint, I'm going to implement the slideshow option. So you should get a full screen view there. Okay. In Indiana, we've adopted the national vision statement, which is to build a strong, engaged army of self-governing activists. So that is the national vision statement, and that now has become Indiana's vision statement. Now, in Indiana, our mission statement now, and this is the mission statement that we've adopted going into 2021, and that's to restore self-governance. There's that term, self-governance, to restore self-governance by recruiting, training, and deploying citizen activists to engage in all levels of governance and government. So that's the Indiana vision statement. Now, I'm not including this in this presentation, but we've identified about 6 particular goals that we want to try and we want to strive to achieve here in Indiana in 2021. And once we achieve those goals, then we will have accomplished our mission statement. Now, resources that we have available to us here in Indiana. As Jonathan mentioned, the main website, the national website, conventionofstates.com. You'll hear us make reference to this website frequently, but that is our national website. Now, embedded in the national website is our state website page, conventionofstates.com/Indiana. Social media platforms, our main platform is Facebook on our state Facebook page, Convention of States Indiana. This broadcast is being brought to you through that state Facebook page. Now, also, we have a YouTube channel, COS Indiana. As I mentioned earlier, the broadcast is being live streamed through our YouTube channel. But the YouTube channel is also an educational resource for everyone. We have narrated PowerPoint presentations. We have recordings of our broadcasts. We have links to a great podcast that our legislative liaison, Paul Phillips, does. It's called the Free to Be Free podcast. So whenever Paul generates a podcast, we put a link on our YouTube channel so that you can have easy access to his excellent, excellent podcast. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other social media platforms. So if you're into social media, you should not have any trouble finding us. Just a few numbers. In 2019, we set a goal of getting 41,000 supporters on the roll here in Indiana, and we accomplished that goal. Been growing annually at a tremendous rate. So we set our goal for 2020 to be 52,000. And we're going to announce here in November that we have already achieved that goal, 52,000. So we've set a very ambitious goal for 2021, which we'll be introducing to you very, very shortly. Now, from all these supporters, we have about 80 individuals in leadership roles of varying types. So about 80 individuals, always looking for more people to join us in a leadership role. Now, if you want to get involved, the very first step is to go to that national website, conventionofstates.com, open an account, sign the petition, and that makes you a supporter. And that's a very, very important step, becoming a supporter. Now, if you have an interest in maybe getting more involved, click on the menu selection, take action, scroll down to where it says become a leader, and look at the various volunteer positions that we have available. If one's of interest to you, open it up, read about it. If you're very interested, go ahead and make an application. You're not obligated in any way. But what that does then is your name then comes up on a report that I see as well as a few others every day. And one of us then will be in contact with you to further discuss your interest in that particular position. All right. Just a few quick comments on what I call the Convention of States basics. These are the 3 tenets that our program is based upon, nationally as well as here in Indiana: the problem, the solution, and the plan. In the problem area, we've identified three abuses that we believe exist in our federal government. And Jonathan touched on those in his segment. And we believe the solution to these abuses is to call a convention of states, according to Article 5 of the Constitution, for the purpose of proposing amendments to the Constitution that would address these problem areas, these abuses. So that is the solution that we're proposing. And then the third tenet is the plan that we have to bring about this convention of states. So those are the three tenets that we call the convention of states basics. All right, let me get back here to our screen. And I always, whenever I do this, it always comes up blank. So I get a little bit nervous, but I see everything is now in place. So I'm going to then, let me see if we have any comments or any questions from any viewers. And here we've got one. Jonathan, Paul Phillips says, great interview, Jonathan. So Paul is viewing this evening and has submitted a comment to us. So I thought that was very nice of Paul to do that for you this evening. All right, that's our only viewer comment this evening. So we'll move on to our final segment. And I always like to bring up this photo from our president, Mark Meckler. But now, before I get into the final comments, I want to let everyone know that on our next broadcast, which will be next Monday evening, the 23rd, excuse me, we're bringing on what the young lady I call our super volunteer, Debbie Stewart, and Debbie will be presenting to us another chapter in constitutional literacy. So we've enjoyed Debbie's presentations to us. So next Monday evening, she'll be giving us another chapter in constitutional literacy. And as a matter of fact, we'll be bringing Debbie back early in December, the December 7th broadcast. Debbie will be coming back. On November 30th, we will not be broadcasting. We'll be in order to recognize Thanksgiving and the long Thanksgiving weekend, we're not going to do a broadcast on Monday, November 30th. So the next two broadcasts, you're going to see Debbie Stewart make a presentation on constitutional literacy. So we always enjoy Debbie when she comes on. I always like to close with our president's quote, Mark Meckler, and it's basically he's saying that, there's a fundamental question facing our country, and it's not what should we do. The fundamental question is who will decide. So the question facing us is a two-word question, very simply, who decides. In Convention of States, we believe we the people should have a greater say-so, not only at the federal level, but at the state level, county level, city level, community level. This is all about self-governance, getting involved. So I always like to close with this quote. I think it's a very good, very appropriate, and in today's time, I think it's even more appropriate. The question facing us is very simply, who decides? And we believe it's we the people. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And with that, we will sign off this evening. So everyone, thank you for joining us, and have